Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. This is live stream 1216. If you're not overly familiar with the show, just hanging out, having fun. We're certainly not engaged in rocket surgery or anything along those lines. No, we're just hanging out, normally talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then usually we will take a first look at a game, maybe a board game unboxing or a role-playing game page through or unboxing in this case tonight, because yes, we're going to be taking a look at Mappa Mundi from 3 Sales Studios. And this looks very impressive. The artwork looks really, really cool. So once in a while, we also just kind of talk about a topic related to our hobby. And every blue moon, we just hang out, do the news, and just kind of chew the fat with chat. But tonight, we are taking a look at Mappa Mundi. Or I'm going to go Mappa Mundi, not Mundi. I think that sounds more like it. I would take a guess it is Latin. I understand what Mappa would be. Right? I think that's pretty obvious. Anyway, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part. And, of course, if you check that box and you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, comment, by all means, fire away. I will do my very best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Sean O'Donnell. We've also got Semper Buffo, Mark Hawkswell, Chris Lundgren, and Wallona's Cave. I do want to point out we will not have the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D with us this week as one of our chat moderators. She has some family commitments, things going on. So we wish her the very best. And we'll see Sarah D when I get back from Gen Con. All right, let's jump on into the news. Because now up on Kickstarter is Old School Tactical Volume 5, Battle for France 1940. Here's the scoop from Flying Pig Games. Next up in the award-winning Old School Tactical series by Shane Logan, Old School Tactical Volume 5 drops you into the early days of World War II when the German Blitzkrieg shattered the illusions of the Allied armies. Old School Tactical isn't about sweeping historical maneuvers. It's about the granular, boots-on-the-ground chaos of small unit combat. Every hex is a decision, and every decision can mean life or death for your troops. The French side commands regular army as well as colonial troops. Also, some of the best early war tanks, such as the Char B-1 BIS and Soma S-35, are under their control. The German opposition fields highly mobile motorcycle troops and armored cars, as well as an allotment of early panzers, such as the Panzer IIe and the Panzerjäger 1. This is a tactical battles the old school way, fast turns, large counters, huge mounted maps, and brutal outcomes. There is a short Kickstarter video. It's going to give you a little closer look at Volume 5 of Old School Tactical. So let's give it a peek.
Spring 1940. The Blitzkrieg begins anew. Through the Ardennes, the German war machine thunders toward the heart of France. In Old School Tactical Volume 5, Battle for France, you command the Allied forces as they brace against Hitler's lightning war. Or take control of the Wehrmacht in a campaign of calculated fury. Old School Tactical Volume 5 is a complete game, delivering the brutal, fast-paced tactical combat that's made the OST series a wargaming favorite. No mercy, no fluff, just war, hex by hex. And you can also take the fight further back to the war's opening shots. First to Fight is the new expansion for Old School Tactical, plunging players into the desperate struggle for Poland. This is the chance to get not only the complete game, Old School Tactical Volume 5, but also its first expansion, First to Fight, the Wehrmacht invasion of Poland in 1939. Stand against the might of the Wehrmacht with Polish resolve. Or rewrite history with overwhelming force. One complete game, one bold expansion, 2 campaigns that shaped a world at war. Back Old School Tactical Volume 5, Battle for France 1940, now on Kickstarter. A game made by gamers for gamers to enjoy. By Flying Pig Games.
The Kickstarter for Old School Tactical Volume 5 is fully funded. You can reserve your copy at an early bird rate of $150. And it's not through a certain date, it's a certain number of copies. Once those are gone, the basic pledge will be $160 through August 12th. And yes, it's from Flying Pig Games, the company, one of the companies run by my pal, Mark H. Walker. Very cool. Very nice to see another edition of Old School Tactical. Now, you might be balking at the price. Always remember, war games tend to be more expensive than standard board games. And Old School Tactical box, the size of the map's huge. The box itself is probably, from the volumes that have preceded this, about yay tall. So quite big. Yes. Very cool. Very cool. All right, Tessie Trekkie and Mark Hunt are with us in chat. It is a first-time visit for Mark here in chat with us. Welcome aboard. Make yourself comfortable. Moving right along. Arriving in September is the Dungeons & Dragons starter set, Heroes of the Borderlands from Wizards of the Coast. Here's what I know. Gather your friends, open the box, and grab the dice. Your first epic quest begins tonight. Heroes of the Borderlands is more than just a board game. It's your first step into the magic of Dungeons & Dragons. With everything you need in the box and playable in minutes, this is a legendary adventure for you and your friends who'll remember for years to come. With everything needed to get started in minutes, this is the ultimate way to explore the Borderlands and create unforgettable memories together with your friends. Inside the box, you're going to find 3 adventure modes with distinctive styles of play: combat, exploration, and role-playing. A quick start guide for easy character creation, a reference booklet for Dungeon Masters, 3 adventure booklets for players, 8 player boards featuring 4 iconic D&D classes, Cleric, Rogue, Wizard, and Fighter, over 200 game cards for backgrounds, species, spells, equipment, magic items, monsters, NPCs, and more. Over 20 poster maps, including area maps for the caves of Chaos Valley, the Keep on the Borderlands, and the Wilderness. Over 200 tokens, including resources, monsters, and terrain. A combat tracker that teaches new dungeon masters how to track initiative effectively, as well as a set of 11 dice, which are essential for playing D&D. 5 immersive in-world handouts that include shop catalogs, a tavern menu, and more. There's 8 player character tokens, easily assembled into upright standees with a punch board base. This box set is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99 when it lands in stores September 19th. The physical and digital bundle carries an MSRP of $54.99, which I thought, wow, it's only $5 more to get the digital bundle. So you get the physical box and the D&D Beyond. And I think it even includes some Roll20 stuff. Thought that was unusual. And I mean, you know, $5 more. Come on, not a bad deal. So you're probably wondering, geez, why is Jeff sharing D&D news? Because I normally do. It's just they don't release all that much stuff. And there are things that fly under my radar, so. But here's the weird thing. One of the first sentences in that sell sheet info is this is being considered a board game, not a role-playing starter set. I thought that was kind of weird. Kind of unusual. So what it appears to be, and remember, I am going with Elliot to the D&D press function a week from today. And I'm going to ask somebody about that decision of actually promoting this as a board game as opposed to a role-playing game. Because I sort of get the impression that they're looking to try to lure in board gamers by saying this is a board game, but it's a role-playing game. I don't know. I'm going to take a guess. I am probably going to receive a copy of that new Dragon Adventure book because they've already told us that there's swag and stuff like that. And last year, we got the Player's Handbook. I had to laugh because I let Elliot know about it because Elliot has should be an email address with the Gaming Gang because he's still considered part of the Gaming Gang. He's one of the founders, right? So he's got a press pass with me because the Gaming Gang, we get 2 press passes every year. And I should really push for 3 one of these days, but you know. So anyway, so he doesn't access that email address. So I told him, hey, you know, we've got invites to another D&D party. It's on Wednesday. And this time he was already going on Wednesday. It wasn't like suddenly he changed his plans. He's like, yeah, I'm going on Wednesday. But I said, yeah, I think we'll probably get that Dragon Adventure book that's coming out. And I said, oh, yeah, yes, I wish they were giving out the Dungeon Master's Guide. I was like, dude, that book came out a while back. Just because he doesn't have it. He doesn't have the monster manual either, so. Kevin R. Smith is with us in chat, as is our good friend, the Madman. Pete Strakulich also popped on in. So, Kevin R. Smith says in the Roll for Combat stream today, Stephen was saying the board game marketing might be because retailers can't return board games, but they can return books. That was one of the things I had also thought. I thought that might be another reason too. I don't know. Honestly, don't. But I am kind of curious. And for $50, there seems to be quite a bit packed into this box. I am kind of curious if the booklets are going to be that like real cheap paper booklets that we've seen in the past. Just like there's is it the October release or August release? Because I guess Wizards of the Coast is trying to have a new release for D&D every month of some sort. I guess that is their game plan going forward. And it's a tie-in with Stranger Things. And I thought to myself, oh my God, if that is anything like the D&D Stranger Things starter set, it'll be absolute trash. But I think it's supposed to be the adventure campaign that they were playing. I don't know. Not a clue. Anyway, but I thought this was kind of an interesting piece. And I am curious. I wouldn't mind taking a peek at this. I say it all the time. People don't believe me because they don't want to believe it. They want to be like, oh, I hate Wizards of the Coast. I hate Dungeons and Dragons. Jeff's on board with me. And it's like, no. But I do treat Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons like any other publisher. So I don't think they're anything special or anything like that. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll see if I can get on board to get some review stuff for D&D. It's just they didn't like my honest reviews. But I think they've got a different PR company now. So we'll find out. We'll find out. So there's some discussion of the, I think it's Gangbusters BX that Chris Lundgren has an investment in. He's always pushing that game. I don't know if he's got an affiliate link he's trying to. I'm kidding. I guess it is Mark Hunt's game. And I think Chris Lundgren's trying to convince Mark Hunt to send me a review copy. So, Mark, if you would like to get video coverage of Gangbusters BX, just shoot me an email. We can set something up. Not a problem. All right. Next news piece. I do have to warn Chris Lundgren, if you're on any sort of medication or anything like that, you might need to leave the room. Just maybe mute the sound or something. I don't know. Because Bundle of Holding has actually re-released. They've revived their Advanced Adventures bundle from Expeditious Retreat Press. And I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer. We've resurrected our January 2023 Advanced Adventures Mega Bundle featuring PDFs of nearly 4 dozen short, ready-to-play tabletop fantasy role-playing adventure modules in the long-running Advanced Adventures line from Expeditious Retreat Press. These 43 short scenarios, dungeon crawls inspired by the earliest versions of Dungeons and Dragons, show off the old-school revival style. Tools, not plot lines. Rulings, not rules. A game master who doesn't railroad players onto a prearranged script, but lets them sink or swim through their own actions. Encounters aren't necessarily balanced, and outcomes are seldom scripted. Characters who don't use their heads usually wind up losing them. Designed for the open license Osric system, the old school reference and index compilation, a free retro clone of first edition AD&D. These advanced adventure modules adapt easily to any old school fantasy RPGs, such as Old School Essentials or Shadow Dark. They fit smoothly in your ongoing campaign to let your player characters ramp from level 1 zeros to level 10 heroes. For just $9.95, you'll get all 12 titles in this revived offers starter collection, which has a retail value of $70 as DRM-free PDFs, including the first 10 AA modules from number 1, The Pod Caverns of the Sinister Shroom, through number 10, The Lost Keys of Solitude. And they'll even include the 2009 bestiary Malevolent and Benign 1 and the free Osric rulebook. For a list of all the modules that are in this sales page, you'll be able to find them on Bundle of Holding and get far more detail over on DriveThruRPG. Now, if you pay more than the current threshold price of $35.17, you'll level up and also get this Revival's entire bonus collection with 34 more titles worth an additional $210. 33 more Advanced Adventures modules from number 11, The Conqueror Worm, through number 43, The Warrens of Zagash, and hitting many highlights of the AA line, including Stone Sky Delve, Down the Shadow Vein, and The Mouth of the Shadow Vein, as well as both White Dragon Run scenarios. Also included is the 2018 Malevolent and Benign 2 Monster Manual. These savings will run through August 11th. That is a whole hell of a lot of fantasy role-playing adventuring for a pretty small price. Chris Lundgren says, oh, it'll work with the new edition of Osric. They've got their copy coming on backer kits. So, also says, those modules rock. Matthew Constantine's with us, so they can't stay. Just wanted to pop in and say hi. And mentions the role-playing game we're looking at tonight. Looks interesting. I agree. We're going to delve on into that very, very shortly. So Mark Hunt says, I think he said something about he's going to be at Gen Con, so I should pick up a copy of Gangbusters BX. I could have swore I saw that. Maybe it's my imagination. Maybe that was just wishful thinking. So I say, yes, I'll give him a copy. Oh, there you go. Chris Lundgren says, I'm going to be at, okay, I get it. So, yeah, anyway, like I said, Mark, just shoot me an email. We'll work something out. Not a problem at all. So, Kevin R. Smith was talking about the Roll for Combat stream earlier today. Well, the secret tomes for Shadow Dark are currently up on Kickstarter for the aforementioned Roll for Combat. Here's the latest. Published by Roll for Combat, the 3 Battlezoo secret tomes will plunge your Shadow Dark campaigns into deeper, deadlier darkness, unleashing hundreds of award-winning monsters, brutal new player options, and new rules forged for the torchlit crawl. Each book is standalone and bound in a distinct theme carved from the bones of forgotten behemoths. Monster Hunt drags you into a world stalked by nightmare beasts, creatures that devour villages whole, and the grim heroes who hunt them down with blood-soaked steel. Strange and Unusual peels back the veil of reality, revealing creatures warped by the unknown and classes that twist the rules of magic, flesh, and reason itself. Elemental Storm shatters the world, unleashing terrors spawned by volcanoes, storms, and the grinding, shuddering bones of the earth. Forces too wild to contain, too ancient to be given names. Although they do receive names in the book. Each secret tome for Shadow Dark is crammed with crawling horrors, forbidden classes, forgotten spells, brutal new rules, twisted player options, and far darker things best left unspoken. Legendary third-party Shadow Dark game designer Michael Putlak has etched all 3 tomes in ink, blood, and shadow. Over 250 pages per volume, brimming with grim, glorious illustrations, no AI trickery, only real soul-forged art. There are 100 to 150 award-winning monsters per book, each more twisted, clever, and deadly than the last. These beasts don't just lurk, they change the game. Dive deep into the monster part system, slay a horror, rip out its heart or horn or hide, and forge potent weapons, armor, items, and potions unlike anything else at your table. The monster parts, powers, and effects in each book are tailored to the book's overall theme, warped and wondrous, echoing the nature of the beasts they're torn from. New classes, new abilities, new power. As you spill monster blood, your characters evolve, gaining abilities tied to the foes they've conquered. Sized to perfection, each book matches the original Shadow Dark hardcover, sliding seamlessly onto your bookshelf like it was always meant to be there. And yes, there will be hundreds of free digital files, tokens, and more, which await every pledge tier. Tools for players, treasures for GMs, secrets await those who dare. This Kickstarter is well past its funding goal. You can reserve copies of all 3 volumes with stretch goals and digital goodies, including PDFs, for a pledge of $149. If you want to just grab them digitally, you can do so for a $59 pledge through August 22nd, and expected delivery is this December. So pretty quick turnaround on this. From my understanding, the monsters are going to be from the previously released volumes for both 5e and Pathfinder. So you may recall that Roll for Combat, like as an example, Elemental Storm. So that would come out in a hardcover edition for 5e. It's also a hardcover edition for Pathfinder. So those are the award-winning monsters. But it sounds to me like there is a lot of additional meat on these bones. New rules, and it's not just the monster hunter gathering various components to make things, which are a big deal with the Battlezoo releases to this point. I want to say, I think almost every single book I've seen, which is a bestiary for the Battlezoo line, has the 10 or 12 pages of the crafting rules, the crafting things from the monster parts, which I think is kind of cool because then you're not forced to buy a bestiary that you weren't really interested in just to get those rules. So I got to give it up to Roll for Combat for doing that. But once again, Kevin R. Smith says new classes in at least 2 of the books. So yes, there is going to be quite a bit in these volumes that we haven't seen before. So this isn't just, okay, so Stephen decided, hey, let's get somebody to convert this, the monsters we've already published to Shadow Dark, and here you go. New artwork too. It looks like it's all line art. Pretty sweet. Pretty nice. I know Stephen, when these finally arrive, he'll be sending, oh, there we go. As I say that, Stephen pops in. I said, oh, great. Now we can't keep talking shit about Stephen. Damn it. Damn it. I wasn't done ragging on him. Governor Smith's like, just in time, roll for combat. Like he's missing me doing something evil. No, I'm joking. That means you're just in time, just wrapping up the news piece. Anyway, as I started to say, and then I saw he popped in, I said, if I know Steven, when these books are finished and they're out, he'll send me copies. So I'll be able to share video. You'll get reviews and everything. So you'll get an inside look. I should ask Steven, do you have an exhibit area at Gen Con? I thought you said you are exhibiting this year. Because I actually have a question, but it is not a question for public consumption. Steven says, I'll send you tons of stuff. Booth 1949. Why don't we do an interview, Steven? Shoot. Oh, that's right. For some reason, Steven emails me and I don't get the emails. It is weird. So 1949. All right. I will pop by on Thursday. I'll swing by on Thursday to say hello. Yeah, see, Steven says, I've tried to email you multiple times. Only thing I can think of is maybe you're misspelling my name. I don't know. It's weird. It is kind of strange. So Steven says they'll be there most of Thursday. What I'll do is if you're not there, whoever's floating around, I'll give him one of my cards. It's got my number. You can just shoot me a text or call. Because, because we'll get you on camera. We'll do an interview. We'll joke around. We'll kid around like I normally do in my interviews. Sweet. Maybe we'll try to set it up for late Thursday if we can. Because my schedule is actually pretty packed now. But I do want to talk to Steven. Do want to talk Roll for Combat. Last question for Steven. Is your first Shadow Dark book going to be available at Gen Con? So I'm kind of curious about that as well. All right. So, if you're wondering, there is like a short video for this Kickstarter, but it's like a minute in length. And honestly, I think the images you're seeing right now were more impressive than what you kind of saw. But so Steven says, no, it will not be there at Gen Con. They're still working on it. All right. Just curious. All right, let's move on to our final news piece, because on the near horizon is the physical edition of a Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay High Elf Player's Guide. And here's what I know. A guide to the lands and culture of Ulthuan and the high elves that live there. Get ready, here comes the mispronunciation of the Warhammer people, places, and things. High elves are great characters to create and play. Their acute senses, athletic grace, perceptive minds, and long lives provide them with many natural advantages over the humans of the old world. Added to this, their potential to achieve mastery in the fields of swordsmanship, archery, and magic means that high elves make the most of a life of adventure. So here's something kind of interesting. So we've mentioned before, in fact, I did mention this, I think it was when I did my review of the Dwarf Player's Guide. The plural of dwarf in Warhammer is dwarfs with an F. The plural of elves is not elves with an F. It is ELVES. Right, hey. Oh, Tessie Trekkie says they got the Discworld role-playing game core rulebook PDF. Very nice. Chardell says same, but in lowercase. Cosmere is out in PDF. I got a news piece for that tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's another game I'm kind of curious about, but I have like zero relationship with Brotherwise games outside of saying hello to the face of Brotherwise games. If I remember right, I think it's Chris. But even though I was like the first outlet to review Boss Monster, and we liked it quite a bit. I don't know. Anyway, back to the news piece. Added to this, their potential to achieve mastery in the fields of swordsmanship, archery, and magic means that high elves make the most of a life of adventure. They can develop into powerful characters with access to a suite of abilities few can rival. High elves also present challenges. Controlling their emotions is key to making the best of them. Their abilities require dedication to learn and failure to keep abreast of the latest intrigues in the courts of Ulthuan could lead to a quick fall from grace. The High Elf Player's Guide is the ultimate guide to creating and playing high elf characters in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. An essential guide to the High Elves of Ulthuan, their land, history, religion, and culture. You'll find new careers for High Elf characters, including the Swordmaster, Mage, Sea Guard, and Shadow Warrior. Rules for the High Elves, prophetic dreams, overriding obsessions, and maintaining the spiritual balance. Yenli, a system for playing an elf who has lived for many centuries, or one that carries the cursed blood of Anarion, the first of the High Elf Phoenix Kings. Explore the lore of high magic, including a comprehensive list of spells and creating powerful high mages. Participate in the infamous intrigues of the kingdoms of Ulthuan. The hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $39.99. It is promised by the end of summer. I do not know if we are going to see this arrive at Gen Con. Kind of curious. We shall find out. Of course, we're going to see it. I thought the Dwarf Player's Guide was excellent. I'm really looking forward to this as well. I really do want to see Cubicle 7 Games continue to support Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, even though they've now launched the Old World. All that's out for the Old World right now is the player book. The GM book is not out. It's not even out in PDF yet. So, Showdown asks, how chill are these high elves? Fairly chill. Relatively chill. Chris Leonard says they'd run games at Gen Con. It's just so expensive to travel from California. Certainly understand that. Most definitely. So that's it for the news tonight. It's had some really cool news. Yeah, even the, secret tomes for Shadow Dark, they looked all right. Hey, I brightened up the camera a little bit. I noticed the other day, I was doing the timestamps on one of the, I don't know if it was, I'm trying to think if it was a review video. No, I think it was a live stream. I thought, man, that camera looks awfully dark. So hopefully I don't look too washed out or anything. I changed the ISO on the camera. So we shall see. We shall see. So Tessie Trekkie was screaming about Discworld. Okay, all right. Right. It's a fucking game. Just relax. I'm like that sometimes when something shows up that I'm really curious about. I'll be like, oh, nice, sweet. DB's with us in chat. Welcome aboard. Pete Straklich asks, do elves eat humans? Not in Wifrup. They might in, is it Norway? Is it Norway that the elves eat babies? I mean, not like real. Aren't it? Isn't it the Norwegian elves that eat children? I know the American elves don't. Shazam85 is with us in chat as well. Says, if you talk about the secret tomes, are they still secret? So they backed it yesterday to get the physical books. Sweet. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, as I mentioned, that is the news for tonight. Of course, last news story, I did mention the, or did I? Did I mention the PDF for the High Elf Player's Guide is available at DriveThruRPG? Right now, it's actually been out for a while, and it's $19.99. So, hey, speaking of DriveThruRPG, don't forget the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go stop by DriveThruRPG, Storyteller Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always support the outlet in a couple of ways. First off, you can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Oh, so refreshing. Actually, today it is because it's flipping hot. It's hot out. Or you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. And every live stream, I like to give a big shout out to our Patreon members. Our $5 tier members, Gustavo Cavalho, Jason Lawman, Kaval, Kevin R. Smith, Marius Smith, Sean O'Donnell, and Talzek. Thank you kindly. We've also got our $10 tier members, Dan Webb, Game Cat, Pete Strakulich, RPG Munch, Tessie Trekkie, and Tier 2 DM. Thank you kindly. And we also have our $25 tier members, Agile Monk and the Madman. So thank you, everybody, for supporting the Gaming Gang. It is much appreciated. So a couple of things before we move along. So I was talking about DriveThruRPG One Bookshelf sites. Bizarrely, my brother calls me today. My brother is getting ready to go to Comic-Con tomorrow on the press passes that I worked so hard to get. It's all right. It's all right. I'm not going. I'm like, yeah, right. So anyway, so he calls me up and he said, hey, you got a package here. It's like, I've got a package there. Who would be sending me a package to his address? Now, there was a period years ago when I was moving from Arizona back to Chicago that I was using that address. But it was just like forwarding stuff on. And for some oddball reason, it's like buried in my One Bookshelf account. But it's not my active address. My active address is my address. I was like, what the hell? So somebody had sent me a print-on-demand review copy to my brother's address. I was like, what the hell's going on? And what makes it even weirder is I have other publishers send me stuff that's print on demand from DriveThruRPG, and they come to this address. So how the hell did it end up going to an address that I have not used to have any mail sent to for about 13 years? Sean O'Donnell says, great excuse to go hang out with Mr. Greg. Well, he'll be at Comic-Con when I swing over there to go pick up the package. Probably go over there on Friday. So a question Chris Lundgren's asking, Mark, was the mob ever active in the Cubs in Chicago or betting on sports? Well, seeing that I am a pretty decent Chicago historian and Chicago Cubs historian, there were never any Chicago Cubs players who were banned from baseball for betting on baseball, throwing games, or anything like that. Now, of course, we do know the 1919 White Sox, forever now known as the Black Sox, did that. At least 8 members of that team knew about it. There you go. Kevin R. Smith's like, cough, Black Sox, cough. Now, that's not to say that there were never any rumbles, because I could have swore, maybe I'm misremembering this, going way back to like Cap Anson. So we're talking, what, turn of the century-ish? Because he wasn't still a Cub during the Tinkers to Evans to Chance years, which are like the teens. But there are, he's like a Hall of Famer, and he's like a famous, dead ball era ball player, but he was supposed to be a real piece of shit. So, yeah, there were some rumblings that he could be bought. There were a few players, famous players too. Tris Speaker, Hall of Fame Cleveland Indians outfielder. There were some grumbles that for a price he'd go 0 for 4 in a game. I don't know, but to my knowledge, I've never heard anything about any sort of like throwing games for the Cubs. Did it happen? Could be. Never know. Never know. So anyway, yes, I wanted to mention that for some oddball reason, this package comes from essentially DriveThruRPG, the one bookshelf, lineup. To my brothers, I was like, what the hell? So I even logged into my account and I'm like, it's in there for some weird reason. My current address is in there like 10 times. And then all the way at the bottom was that address. Kevin R. Smith said Ty Cobb did throw a game, but I don't think it was because of the mob. It was supposedly to fix the standings so a friend's team could get a bonus. It's pretty wild because Ty Cobb didn't have a whole lot of friends, especially players who played with him. So, although I don't think, if you ever saw that movie Cobb, where, who is it? Tells his name. Tommy Lee Jones. I almost said Bobby Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones plays Ty Cobb as a man in his like 70s or something like that. And he's like way out there. Not a bad movie, but they do use Tommy Lee Jones in the baseball scenes. And it's like, you don't look 30 years old, man. You don't look like in your mid-20s here. And I mean, they try to pull it off, but yeah, it was kind of over the top. It's based on an autobiography about Ty Cobb. But yeah, he was another piece of work too. Anywho, Kevin R. Smith says this was when he was a player manager. I think it was player manager. I don't think Ty Cobb was. Now, I might be wrong because I'm not like a Detroit Tigers sort of historian. I don't think he was ever a manager. Maybe he may have been, but I know he was a player manager because player managers were not necessarily common, but they weren't rare. mean, usually you had one or two teams in the league that had a player manager. So, all righty. So a little baseball discussion for you tonight. So we are going to be diving on in. We're going to unbox and take a first look at the Mappa Mundi. Did I say I was going to say, oh, I said I was going to say Mundi or Mundi. So we're going to look at Mappa Mundi right after a brief intermission. And, well, the Patreon thing. All right, now it's going.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Sure is great being at a drive-in watching Super Flick and eating all this great food.
This flick is making me hungry.
It makes me want to flick my Bic.
We should have gone to the drive-in where we could eat and flick to our heart's content.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Well, come on then. I'm going to have a pizza and popcorn and ice cream.
And I'm gonna have a burger with fries and a soft drink.
Yum, yum, yum.
This was a great idea.
Yeah.
Get wet with me at Wild Waves Water Park! Wild Waves! Wild Waves! We're next to Enchanted Village and flip away!
Oh, summer's so terrific, it's got something more. Time to play, get away, something more. And we've got the richest, smoothest treat you'll ever pour. Rambling would be something more. On a summer day, you're gonna say it's something more. More mellow, more foamy, more creamy. Yeah, rambling would be something more.
Try sugar-free Ramblin' too. What do you feed 12 hungry Cub Scouts?
May I make a suggestion?
Who are you?
I'm the LaChoy Dragon.
Yeah, a real dragon!
What you need is LaChoy Chow Mein. Oof. It's never mushy. It's crisp and crunchy.
It is, huh?
LaChoy Chow Mein is quick cooked by me in dragon fire. Quick cooking makes LaChoy Chow Mein as crisp and good as the takeout kind. Oh, and one more thing.
What's that?
Try LaChoy noodles. Serve them with LaChoy Chow Mein for a perfect meal in just 6 minutes. Buy some today!
I will!
And remember, you heard about it from the LaChoy Dragon!
LaChoy Chow Mein, as crisp and good as the takeout kind. Because it's quick cooked in dragon fire.
Yes, this is Dr. Stewart speaking.
We need your help. Sir, you've studied giant animals. You had one in captivity, didn't you?
Yes, that was 5 years ago. You know, he might have been a young species of a gargantua.
Attention! All aircraft are to turn away! An alert! An alert! This is Tokyo Tower! Don't land!
headed northwest and has reached this point. We will move headquarters out to the field immediately.
Let him have it. Hey, look! Another one!
What's the matter?
The giant!
Get back to the car.
Send all defense units to the beaches.
I remember seeing War of the Gargantuans when I was a little kid. Well, preteen. I don't think I've ever seen it since. It was one of those movies that popped up on one of our UHF channels on a Saturday afternoon. Weirdly enough, I do not remember that root beer. I know I just saw Chris Lundgren says, I remember that root beer. I don't. I was like, wow. And it was a Coca-Cola product. That's what the ad said. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. All righty. So tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at Mappa Mundi, an exploration and ecology role-playing game from 3 Sales Studios. This box set carries an MSRP of $75. Right now, you can score just the PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Because of the Xmas in July sale, it is $20.15. So pretty smoking deal, although I don't know if that PDF includes the cards that are in this box. And there is also an adventure that the folks over at 3 Sales Studios provided me that's in PDF. I don't know if it's available in print. I think it's an exploration guide or something like that. Anyway, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Mappa Mundi. And you notice the artwork on the cover of this box is different. All right, let's get this shrink wrap off. I will say this box has some heft to it. So I am pretty sure this is going to be a hardcover book we take a look at. But yeah, that is some really cool looking artwork. Before we jump on in, should point out that the fine folks over at 3 Sales Studios were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's important that you know that. Actually, you know what? I get the feeling that the 2 cameras are not in sync. Let's see. Nope, they are not. Hang on there a minute, Baba Louie. Thought it looked kind of off. Now it's got too much. That's kind of weird. That was, it's kind of odd about OBS, which is the program that I utilize for, this is usually how it's close enough. That's okay. Which I use to stream. Every stream, I have to kind of play around with the delay on this camera because it's off a little bit, and it's never the same. It's never the same microseconds. I always have to screw around, and that's how I normally do it. I do this, that, and then I gotta go, So yes, I could tell it's just a wee bit off, but we'll live. We shall live. Anyway, so the fine folks over at 3 Sales Studios did provide me with this, but once again, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. We're not going to look at everything in this box. We're not going to look at every card. We're not going to flip through every page, but I am very curious about this. This looks like a really cool role-playing game. Welcome, Chronicler, to the Mappa Mundi Institute. Now that your training is complete, your first assignment awaits. Where will it take you? Only you can decide. From the plains of Lechnitsa to the jungles of Fuandi, the frozen tundra of the Cubicle Rift, to the desert heat of Eshamir, a whole world stands ready, waiting for those willing to step beyond, I should say, hearth and home. Mappa Mundi, an exploration and ecology role-playing game, is a tabletop role-playing game for 1 to 6 players. I believe it might be a QRC to download a solo rule set. I think it clocks in 15 pages or so. I think that's in here too. Guided by a narrator, players take on the role of chroniclers, everyday people trained to travel the wilds of Ecumene, a world recovering from a century of ecological catastrophe. The links that bound the peoples and places of the world have been broken. Only you can reconnect them. And waiting for you in the wilds, monsters, creatures, and landscapes different to any you have seen before. Research your target, journey through the wilds, encounter fantastical beings, document your adventures, and tell the new history of Ecumene. This is your role to play, Chronicler. The world is waiting. All right, so let's open this up. Well, first of all, this box top is really sturdy. This is super thick. That's pretty cool. W. Forge is with us, asks, is Daggerheart starting the trend of selling a core book with accessories in a box? No. That's not something that Daggerheart is the first to do. We've seen that quite a bit, especially with dice and stuff like that. I don't think there are any dice in this. So it looks like this is kind of our map. But yeah, that is a really sturdy box. Chardell says Dragonbane. Yeah, there you go. Dragonbane's a good example. Kevin R. Smith says Daggerheart doesn't put everything in the box. It's a slipcase set with the book and a box of cards. Yep. All right, so here is the core book. And yes, it is a hardcover. Here are the cards. They are tarot sized. Whoa, that is really nice. Take a peek at these. They have a linen finish. Those are really nice cards. Okay, so we'll take a peek at those in just a few. So first thing we're going to do, take a peek at the credits page. Because I'm sure a lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life. Let's give some credit where credit is due. So the illustrations are from one artist. Wow. Okay. So we'll have our introduction, safety tools, how to play, character creation, licenses and skills, interactions, our core rules, all of 6 pages. There you go. That kind of rolls light, probably. W. Forge says hardcovers in a box is pretty new. That is true. Got our narrator's guide, regional guides. The cardiary must be giving us a breakdown of each of the cards. And a pronunciation guide. Yeah, I could certainly use that. Okay. Welcome to Mappa Mundi in Exploration and Ecology RPG. Here you will experience a world not unlike our own. Though monsters and fantastic creatures roam the wilds, the world of Ecumene, maybe that's us pronounced. Hey, let's just go to the pronunciation guide right off the bat. And the continent of Ivasu, covered in this core rulebook, bears striking similarities to Earth. Ecumene has experienced and now begins to recover from catastrophic environmental effects. It has lived through wars and social upheavals that have changed the way people interact with and understand one another. And crucially, it has survived these changes in one form or another and now seeks to deepen its understanding of itself. So let's talk production quality. Nice, thick paper stock. This reminds me of what we see in a lot of the Free League publishing releases. So very, very nicely done here. So we get some fiction on monsters and creatures, thoughts on the bones, character creation. Graduates from the Mappa Mundi Institute are given the title of chronicler before they are sent out on their first assignments. Most promising are asked to travel as much of the world as they can, reconnecting the regions and cultures divided by the flux, and conducting a full survey of the monsters, creatures, and ecologies that exist in the wilds. So step 1, name and description. Step 2, choose your starting license. So we have archivist, diviner, I should say, diviner, but I think it's actually should be pronounced diviner or diviner. I don't know. Fixer and guardian. While your choice of starting license is important, it is easier to gain skills related to your starting license. It is not a restriction. You may unlock skills from other licenses during your adventure. W. Forge says at their age, they have to ask about the text font size. Readable, very easily readable. Very, very easily readable. You can probably just tell from the screen. So yeah, no problem whatsoever. We're not talking basic role playing or Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc., which both of those got dinged in their review scores because of the tiny font that they use. Step 3, assign your training. Each chronicler begins with 5 bones in their collection. A D2 coin, the fate bone, 2D4s, 4-sided dice, 2D6s. Your starting license denotes which ability is a strength and which is a weakness. Assign 1d6 to your strength, 1d4 to your weakness. Assign the remaining d4 and d6 as you wish. Not sure what the d2 would be. I would think your weakness would get that D2, but maybe not. Choose your first skills from your license's skill path. Choose your first interactions from your license's available options. The archivist. The academics of the Mappa Mundi Institute are a diverse bunch. Some are to be found burning the midnight oil, poring over accounts of stories, travels, and histories in the library, pouring's misspelled. Others can be seen on the outskirts of towns and cities with ink and parchment in hand, mapping routes hidden and revealed. Others still are to be found deep in the wilds, taking samples from monsters, creatures, plants, and trees alike, recording their findings with meticulous attention to detail. I do believe that this is not a combat-oriented role-playing game. In fact, there may not be combat in this game. So you got specializations: cartographer, biologist, historian, endorsements, folklorist, ecologist, astrologer. So here's our skill path. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Then we get a breakdown of their starting skills. Cartographer skills, biologist skills, historian skills. So cartographer gets travel hardened. Biologist has things like field expert and Fate's laboratory. Historian has difference, ancient and new, knowledgeable. Tell you what, I am liking this artwork. All right, so here we have the diviner. Whispers, seers, conduits, witches, all names commonly associated with that. What each holds in common, however, is a link with Fate herself. Some speak with Fate through the bones. Their familiar clicks a hidden language. Others interpret Fate's plan through cards, reading life, death, and patterns from the infinite combinations. The rarest of all immerse themselves in nature, soaking up each and every stimulus, foretelling the future of in the flights of birds, the whisper of the wind, and the crunch of the soil underfoot. So we've got our specializations: cartomancer, osiomancer, augur, geomancer, conduit, tasiomancer for the endorsements. I like the line art quite a bit. I'll tell you one thing. This certainly looks very unique. We've got fixers. Say I know how to pronounce that. Whether it's finding a spare lens for your telescope, putting together a pulley system to lower friends down a cliff face, or smoothing over social situations in foreign regions, fixers are the ones to call. Some fixers emerge from the very poorest of Ecumene's peoples, never forgetting the struggles needed to get by in daily life. Others are fascinated by machinery and the way things work, staring up at the tallest buildings in wonder. Others are still silver-tongued, practicing the social arts and learning all there is to know about the peoples of the world. So you got the envoy, fabricator, scavenger, engineer, medic, conjurer, as far as the endorsements. Some of the skills: people watcher, steady hands, body language. And as you can see, it looks like this is based on one of the attributes. So like we had strength, right? So this is just telling us, what does that skill do? So we're not seeing like some like real hard, fast rules for these skills, it doesn't look like. So as an example, lucky charm, exploration. Everyone needs a little bit of luck to get by in the world, and you're luckier than most. Your good luck charm seems to make fate more kindly disposed to you, and you aren't going to turn down that kind of help. I will say, I would prefer that these were not in italics. The italics make it a little more difficult to read. It's one thing to use italics to differentiate like dialogue or text that's, supposed to be somebody's written journal or something like that. But when we're looking at actual rules and such for a role-playing game or board game, any sort of game, they should not be in italics. You can use bolding if you want something to stand out. Okay, we got our guardian. Green-eyed, some call them. Wild speaker, say others. Deep seeker, they whisper. Everyone has a touch of the wilds about them, though some feel that touch more deeply. Among those rarer few are those who form the ranks of the guardians. Many have come from rural areas where they grew up immersed in the greens, golds, whites, and browns of diverse habitats. Others heard nothing but footsteps on cobblestones and yearned for the deep solitude of the wilds. And some have dedicated themselves to the study and protection of select monsters, creatures, people, or habitats. Shazam85 says, they just got charged for draw steel. We're wondering how long it's going to ship. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I got charged for our golden age. And I don't even think we're going to see that this year. So yes, not always a great indicator of when something's going to ship. So, although I guess they got charged for the shipping costs, so did I. It's kind of like, really? I just read an update. I'm a little irritated by that Kickstarter, to be honest. But I just saw a recent update where it was like, oh, well, okay, so now all the artwork in the core book is done or close to being done. I was like, wow, this was supposed to be delivered already. It's like, okay. All right. All right. So guardian specialists, warden, survivalist, trapper, endorsements, veterinarian, herbalist, fate keeper. So it looks like we're covering a lot of the bases here. If, the sort of character you want to play as. Although I'm going to take a guess that the Guardian is not going to be a combat sort of class. All right, here we got the core rules. Let's take a look at these key principles. I'm not going to get into detail about each, but narrative first gameplay. Shaping can change things for better or worse. We'll have to find out what shaping is. Oh, it's like there, right there. Duh. Failure is part of learning. Cool. Collaboration is key. Write your chronicle. Ruling's not rules. Yay. As I mentioned, kind of have a feeling this is a narrative-focused game. Not going to have a lot of crunch, which is fine with me. Roll in the open. All right, so shaping is the core mechanic Mappa Mundi uses for collaborative storytelling. It is the process of chroniclers and narrators giving form and substance to the environment around them, of adding details, minor or major, to the places, people, monsters, and creatures the narrator introduces. It also allows players to introduce ideas and creations to a scene. Think of it as adding flavor text to the world, bringing it to life. Examples of shaping include describing the wildlife that live in the river the chroniclers are traversing via raft, talking about the sights, sounds, and smells of a city's working-class neighborhood, sharing the way your chronicler feels in a given situation. See, now that's not something a game master should be doing. Now, if they want, players could certainly do that. It's one of the things that kind of drives me up the wall about like poorly written adventures, poorly designed adventures, is when they tell the player characters what they feel. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you feel cold. Right. Tessie Trekkie says, you and me, Jeff. So I guess Tessie Trekkie also backed our golden age. Well, we'll see. We'll see it one day. Hopefully I live to see that day. I shouldn't complain because there are Kickstarters out there that people are still getting strung along on that probably are never going to arrive. All right. Shaping only has one rule. Don't erase or contradict the contributions of others, including the narrator. Instead, embellish on what has come before. Abilities, dice, and checks. During character creation, you assign one die from your set to each of these abilities. Our abilities are traversal, is the ability to physically move through the world. Observation is the ability to use one's senses to understand the world. Deduction is the ability to formulate plans and investigate the world. Exploration is the ability and drive to discover the world. I thought we had strength. So, I guess not. Oh, maybe those are training. No, I mean like strength and stuff. So, we know you added to you assign a die. The value of the die you assign represents your level of training in that ability. A D4 represents a relative newcomer. A D12 represents mastery. So I guess D12 is as high as we're going to go. W4 says, what about Insanity and Call of Cthulhu? You tell players they are losing it. Right, but you don't tell them how they feel about it. You tell them the hallucination that they may be having. So I'm just saying, I mean, a poorly designed adventure has read aloud, usually loads of read aloud. And a lot of the read aloud is like, oh, you feel sorry for, no, don't tell your players how their characters feel. So the dice are used to make ability checks. Taking a guess, we've got probably a DC, a target number that they're going to need to pass. It says, okay, each chronicler also carries a D2 or a coin with them. These are used when making fate checks, which are discussed in the fate points and checks section later on this page. So here we got the skills. Alongside ability checks, skills are used by chroniclers for more specific moments of overcoming challenges or contributing to scenarios. In Mappa Mundi, skills are presented narratively. Each has a name and a short description. Yes, we saw that. They're also used narratively, such as when investigating, talking to NPCs, observing and engaging with monsters, and traveling through the wilds. Whenever a chronicler believes that one of their skills may help, they may state they wish to use it. Skills may be used to replace an ability check. If the narrator asks for an ability check, the chronicler may suggest using one of their skills instead. Final decision is made by the narrator. Why did I just say that? Wah, wah, wah. But the chronicler's justification for use of the skill must be considered. Each skill is linked to one of the 4 abilities. Whenever a chronicler uses a skill, they should award themselves a point of expertise in the associated ability. Expertise is used to unlock new skills along skill paths, which are discussed in the character development section, a few pages on down. Fate points, fate checks. Chroniclers may be awarded fate points by their narrator for in-game actions that advance the story and constitute good role-playing. Fate points are rare and precious and should be given out sparingly. Ooh, so we're not talking bennies. Tain't talking bennies here. Players may spend fate points to unlock new interactions. First time this is done by any player, the cost is 5 fate points. For every subsequent use by any player, the cost increases by 2. Well, if you're not getting a whole lot of fate points, that seems like a lot of fate points. Mappa Mundi campaigns are split into chapters. These chapters may last a single gameplay session or take several sessions to complete. Whatever their length, each chapter contains 3 phases: research phase, journey phase, and an encounter phase. These phases give structure to chapters and allow the narrator to progress the game. 3 phases are linked narratively. During the research phase, as chroniclers are making discoveries, finding relevant information, and gaining understanding of their target and its surroundings, the narrator builds a journey deck. We're going to take a look at some of those cards in just a moment. During the journey phase, the party travels through the wilds according to the cards in the journey deck. It looks like you may be laying the cards out in a line. During the encounter phase, when the party comes face to face with their target, the final status of the journey deck directly affects the posture of the target, which will either be passive or aggressive. Target's posture determines the difficulty level of the encounter. A passive target will tolerate more intrusion than an aggressive target, giving chroniclers more opportunities to reveal its behaviors. Every monster and creature has a unique set of behaviors. These are traits, aspects, and actions that define them. Discovered individually, they disclose pieces of information. Revealed as a whole, behaviors are the very substance of life and existence. Generally speaking, monsters will have 8 behaviors, while creatures will have 4. Interactions are special actions used to prompt and reveal monster and creature behaviors. They can also be used during engagements with NPCs, though they will not reveal behaviors unless specified. You also have threads, which represent a target's agency and self-determination. They exist in 3 states: intact, severed, and frayed. During the encounter phase, chroniclers must carefully manage the target's threads. Interesting. Okay, so we get into our character develop, training, expertise, specializations and endorsements, injury, sickness, and health. Well, there you go. As I thought, Mappa Mundi is a game without combat and character death. But just because chroniclers won't die from getting in a fight or venturing too close to a monster or creature doesn't mean that they cannot contract sickness, become injured, or fall unconscious. Injuries and sickness have both mechanical and narrative effects. Chroniclers can experience 4 types of injury: minor, major, unconscious, and transformative. I would think transformative would probably involve like loss of a limb. Tessie Drake says, sounds like an anti-monster hunter trying to understand the monsters, not to kill them. So here's a narrator's guide. Talking about the world. Hey, the artwork kind of dried up. What's going on? Okay, here we go. Regional guides. We should get more artwork here. So these are the different areas. And of course, remember, we've got that cool map on the inside of the box top. So is this giving us a creature with it? No. So that's a creature. Oh, okay. So it's going to give us the creatures that we would find in these regions. Very nice artwork here. Then it looks like, oh, so we had the monsters. I think those are monsters. Now we get the creatures. So remember, the monsters have 8 aspects. I don't think that was a term they used, where creatures have 4 behaviors. That was it. So the Earl King, which almost looks like a stag. Their behaviors: attended, defies classification, ethereal, mind reader, royal, telekinesis, shapeshifter, human speech. Then we have our shaping inspirations. So as an example here, we've got shapeshifter. As you reach for the man's outstretched hand, it changes in front of you. The man grows in stature, changing form before your eyes from humanoid to a majestic, terrifying, oh, there you go, stag. So Chris Lundgren is thanking me for recommending the Call Cthulhu Keepers screen. I will say that the font on that screen is pretty small. I know somebody had mentioned that in the comments because there's a lot of stuff squeezed onto it. So we got the Pegasus. Certainly doesn't look like a normal fantasy Pegasus. That's cool. So it shows, oh, we get 2 passive and aggressive. This is actually the artwork that I'm using in the thumbnail for this video. I gotta say, this is very intriguing. I can certainly tell you this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Because this looks to me like, well, for one, we don't have combat. So players out there who, just love combat after combat, encounter after encounter, which turns into combat, this would not be their cup of tea. I would also say players out there who are more reactionary or are not as proactive in taking part in, I know some people hate this term, the fiction of the game, probably won't care for this. Because it seems to me that the players need to have a good amount of imagination. Otherwise, it's all going to be on the narrator's head. The man said, a Bennu, a friend's Pathfinder character's name is Bennu. That's kind of wild. So it looks like the majority of the book is the region guide. Okay, so here's the cardiary, which is going to give us a breakdown of each of the cards. So I believe this is where we have the travel deck. You make the travel deck out of these location cards. And I guess it's saying, so we get the breakdown here. So as an example, we've got the plateau, card number 19. And then it says regional inspirations. So I'm taking a guess that it's probably recommending, so if you got something going on, like an adventure taking place in the Cubicle Rift, you might want to include this card into the journey deck. W. Ford says, no combat. What do they want us to use? Harsh language? I don't believe you're killing the monsters and creatures. I think you're studying them. I think that's the main premise of the game. So yeah, that's what it looks like here. So those are the journey cards. We've got creature and opportunity cards. It says use creature and opportunity cards to diversify the journey phase and create a more engaging experience for chroniclers. Both of these card types can be oriented rightwise or inverted depending on the chronicler's action. So as I mentioned, I think you're laying these cards out in a row. Here's our pronunciation guide. I don't see a pronunciation for the world. I guess it's just for the regions, and I think these are for the monsters and the creatures. Gotta say, like I said, I am intrigued. I'm impressed by the quality of the book. The production quality, artwork, all that, really nice. Okay, so we're going to take a peek at some of these cards. We're not going to look at it, a ton of them, but we've got a couple of decks here. So I think some of the cards we already know are NPC cards. We've got some cards which are going to be creature cards. And these feel really nice. I would, of course, recommend, even though these feel really nice. You notice how, I don't know, maybe if the camera is actually picking this up, the images pop on these cards. They really do. Here's the Earl King, the big stag creature we were taking a peek at. There's the back there. So the back has what feels to be the linen finish. This is more of a matte finish. Mada. So I guess we had cards for, oh yeah, I guess we would have cards for the monsters because I think it's the last card. Kevin R. Smith says, apparently the creatures never attack under any circumstances. No. Remember, we were taking a look at the injury and it was talking about minor, major, transformative injury, unconsciousness. And it even said, I've read it out loud where it was talking about that they're not necessarily combat, but the chroniclers could be attacked by creatures. I think that's why they've got the passive and the aggressive. Right, so these are the locations here. Oh, upside down. From each of those regions. So got a cliff, coast, dunes, grassland, mangrove forest, a pass, rainforest, salt marsh, very nice. Waterfall. So like I said, I think the way the journey phase goes, something along the lines of you're revealing cards as they're moving along. So depending on where the region was, what you were doing, you're probably going to assemble the deck from these different cards that are for the different regions. So river. So you're not going to be using a river card in a region that's desert. So the Madman says, yeah, you know what? Cards look really nice. I can definitely see the pop. Yeah, some of these images almost have, I mean, it's not 3D, but almost have, like, just to the naked eye, almost have a 3D look to them. Very nice. Those are very, very nice cards. And of course, we've got our insert here. So that is a peek inside Mappa Mundi, an Exploration and Ecology RPG from the fine folks over at Three Sales Studios. Once again, this box carries an MSRP of $75. It is available now. If you want to grab just the PDF, when I took a peek yesterday over on DriveThruRPG during the Xmas in July sale, you can get that core rulebook for $20.15. I don't know if that includes the cards. Honestly, don't. And now the folks over at Three Sales Studios provided me with a bunch of PDFs from DriveThruRPG because there's other stuff too. So I'm not sure if the cards come with the PDF. I would think they would. Maybe you've got so many cards on a page. Showdown says that's just barely over the Starfinder 2nd edition player core books price, right? Yeah, $5.01. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way of things now, everybody. Just like we took a look at Battle Cry yesterday during the Paizo preview, Gen Con 2025 edition. And you may have caught this, you may not have, but I even mentioned it, the 224-page Battle Cry for Pathfinder is $64.99. And the Starfinder 2nd edition player core is 464 pages and it's $69.99. Now, I'm not saying $69.99 is a great price for a 470-page book, but it seems far more fair a price than $65 for 224-page hardcover. And yes, I get it. People are going to say, well, Paizo's, they're all unionized now. And really, the freelancers are all unionized? I don't know about that. Maybe some of the folks who are considered employees of Paizo Inc. I don't know. Chris Lundgren asks, if you only have one science fiction role-playing game, Stars Without Numbers or Starfinder 2nd edition, couldn't tell you on either one. I have not read Stars Without Numbers. I am familiar with it being an OSR. Isn't it like BX adjacent? And I just started reading the Starfinder 2nd edition. So I'll tell you what, here's my answer for the most part. Okay, so if you are on the Discord server, which if you haven't joined the Discord server yet, why not? It's a bunch of the folks who hang out and chat, other folks who watch videos, follow the gaming gang, just hang out, talking about shit, sharing news about different things and so on and so forth. I've already seen like a couple of comments. One was on last night's video. I think it was last night's video. Maybe they're both on the first look video for the Starfinder 2nd edition player core that are basically saying, well, if you pick up Starfinder 2nd edition, I guess you don't need to have Pathfinder because it's all the same. Everything that's in Starfinder player core is what's in Pathfinder player core. And I think the reason why there's that misconception is because for the Starfinder playtest, you needed to have the Pathfinder core books because you needed like the core mechanics and everything. But the thing is, Starfinder is its own standalone game, and it is a space fantasy game. It is not an epic fantasy game like Pathfinder is. So if you want to play, like Kevin R. Smith says, elves, dwarves, wizards, barbarians, and Starfinder, that's news to me. Yeah, and you figure the planet of Galarian's gone. Nobody knows what happened to it, but it's gone in the second edition of Starfinder. That's where Absalom Station comes in. I know that much, right? But I was like, who would think? I mean, I'm not trying to pick on these people because, like I said, I think Paizo Inc. put that idea in their head because they're compatible. And to utilize the playtest, which was all of a couple hundred pages in length, if I remember right, you needed to have those core books because they weren't going to reprint 500 pages of material for a playtest. But as far as somebody choosing between Starfinder 2nd Edition and other science fiction role-playing games, I would say if you're looking for a space fantasy game, if you're looking for a science fiction role-playing game where right off the bat, the player characters are going to be pretty heroic, pretty high-powered, not insanely powered, but they are going to have some power, then go with Starfinder 2nd Edition. Keeping in mind, it is space fantasy. So there's magic. And yes, I know the Arthur C. Clarke phrase about technology and magic. But we have technology. We have augmentation and all this other stuff. And then we have magic. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Now, if you're looking for, you just want to do some space opera stuff, or maybe a little more hard science fiction. If you want to stick to science fiction, I don't want to steer you away from Starfinder 2nd Edition, but it's not a direction I personally would go in. I would go in the direction of a Traveler or Stars Without Number, even though I'm not familiar with it. I've heard wonderful things about it over the years. I heard it's a fantastic toolbox if you're running science fiction role-playing games. You don't necessarily have to use the rule set. Somebody, I think, just mentioned it's built on OD&D. OD&D for combat, Traveler for non-combat, 2d6. Thank you, Kevin. Showdown says, I think I could probably take a Pathfinder 2nd Edition character into Starfinder 2nd Edition. I'm not sure how much a pain it would be. Less than in other games for sure, though. I think if you had the rule books for both, you should be okay. I think that's where you would encounter some trouble, is that you would have like specific feats and actions that are available to, say, a class out of Pathfinder that doesn't have kind of an equivalent, at least yet, in Starfinder 2nd Edition. You could port that over because it's still going to be the 3-action economy as far as I can tell. I mean, that's a big selling point of Starfinder 2nd Edition, is that it's fully compatible with Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered. Man says, Jeff, as far as I'm aware, you are correct on the Pathfinder Starfinder crossover. Yep. So, but once again, I'm digging what I've read so far for Starfinder. I've said complimentary things about Starfinder in the past. I always believe that now, granted, now with the second edition, where all you've got is a book and a deluxe adventure. And I think somebody had commented it's got a 2-part adventure path that's on the horizon that's coming very soon. You don't have the customization that you had with the first edition of Starfinder, with all of the various books that had already come out and things like that. So prior to the new edition, I always said, as far as the customization of the player characters, there wasn't a game out there that I had encountered that had more options available to the players than Starfinder. Just the ancestries alone were like, holy cow. So I also hear that we will see new classes and new feats, new backgrounds, new gear, which we obviously always see with the new gear and spells and stuff like that, and new archetypes usually with the different adventures. I heard that we're looking at having more of that in the Starfinder releases than we've seen in Pathfinder. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. I would think we're, probably going to see a Starfinder second edition player core 2. But I've also heard that we should see some of the stuff that would go into a player core 2 broken up into various different releases that come out. All right. So a little bit of discussion about Stars Without Number. You know what I'm going to do? When I go to Gen Con, I will look in the store, in the auction store. I doubt I'm going to find it because I never find anything that I'm looking for because it's already gone. Some stuff people just put directly into the store. Other people, if it doesn't sell in the auction, it goes to the store. That's what I do. But I'll see if I can track down a copy of either Stars Without Number, Worlds Without Number, or Cities Without Number. I would probably prefer in the order that I just gave. I would rather pick up Stars Without Number than the other two, but if I can't find them. So I'm going to look in the store. Highly doubt I'm going to find it. And usually, see, the funny thing is they moved the auction. So the auction used to be in the convention center. And the excuse they gave for moving it over to the W Marriott across the street is that the people who were standing in line to get into the store, it was difficult to get past, which it wasn't. And then what did they do? They moved it to W Marriott, and then they put the Lorcana, however it's pronounced, gaming in that room. So you had massive lines of people waiting to get in. It's like, okay. W4 says, don't forget Ashes Without Number. I don't think I would find that in the store. Chardon asks, is Elliot going to get stuck in the Lorcana room? I don't even think Elliot's got the game. My brother picked up some collectible box because he's a member of, D23 or something like that. And he didn't open it up or anything. W4 says, good fortune with the auction sale at Gen Con. Thank you. I'm only bringing 40 items because I was going to, okay. Final thing we're going to wrap up because we're hitting a 2-hour mark on this show. Sean Ellis, I saw him eyeing the auction stuff at Polar Vortex. And then he ended up, I think he had a bid in on something and then somebody outbid him and he was like, yeah, forget it. Although it's kind of funny, I will bring games and then we'll, usually, publishers give me board games and that. And then Elliot will be like, yeah, I want to buy a game. I'll be like, what do you mean? We just got. Now, granted, I don't get as many board games as I once did. You just got a ton, right? I mean, if you followed the Gaming Gang for a while, we were predominantly board games, not necessarily role-playing games, although role-playing games are my number one love. W. Ford says, San Diego Comic-Con and Gen Con in back-to-back weekends seems like a bad idea. It's one of the reasons I didn't go. It's one of the reasons I'm not going to Comic-Con is Gen Con's the convention that I need to go to. It's my favorite convention. I have a blast there, and it does something for the outlet. Comic-Con, that's just a money sink. All it is. Just a money sink. Every once in a while, I'd get a video that brought in some views and stuff, but not to offset the hundreds of dollars that we spend just to go. Not only, that, I mean, just the room itself, if all four of us went, the room would have been $450 each for Wednesday, because we always went for preview night on Wednesday, which is going on tonight. But my brother's not going. He didn't go to preview night. He's leaving in the morning. Anyway, as far as Comic-Con, I was like, I don't want to go to Comic-Con, have to race back here, get back here sometimes because we fly on passes. We fly on buddy passes, and there are times that we can't get on a flight. There was one time that my brother got on the last flight that Sunday night. I didn't. I had to sit around and spend the night in San Diego's airport and then in the morning fly to LA to get on a flight to come back to Chicago because there was no way I was getting out on any flights out of San Diego. So I thought, you know what? I am not going to go and not only spend a lot of money that I don't have to go to Comic-Con. Okay, I take that back. I have the money, but I don't want to come back from Gen Con broke. Like, damn, man, I just got done spending $2,000 over a couple of weeks because that's about what it runs. Not so much Gen Con because the auction offsets. That's why I bring stuff to the auction. So yes, I wasn't going to go to Comic-Con and blow a bunch of money. And then I'll tell you, Comic-Con's exhausting. We've talked about how in the past, we have walked over 20 miles in a day. Just walking around San Diego Comic-Con. The convention center itself is a mile in length. So when Elliot would go with, Elliot always has an app that, tracks how far you've walked all day. And he's with, we're all together. So it's not like he's putting in extra mileage on his own. And the fewest miles I think we walked in a day at a Comic-Con was maybe 15. And that was no doubt because we were staying down the street, which is where my brother and our friend David are staying at the Embassy Suites, which is a fantastic location. I really enjoyed staying there. And it still takes about 20 minutes to get down into the convention center, and it's not even that far. Have I ever gone to Origins? Yes, I used to go to Origins all the time. Thoughts versus Gen Con? Not even close. Origins pulls in, and they always over-report their attendance. Always. It's Gamma. What do you expect? Not that I've got a beef with Gamma. It's just inside baseball stuff. I hear about bad behavior from people who have experienced the bad behavior personally, and that turns me off on people and organizations and stuff. It's as far as I'm going to go there, because it is some stuff that's not necessarily for public consumption. But anyway, that is the main reason I don't go to Origins anymore. So back in the day, we would do 3 conventions at least. So we were doing San Diego Comic-Con, Origins, well, in order, Origins, Comic-Con, Gen Con. And there were a couple of years where there was a 2-week period between Comic-Con and Gen Con. So that was cool. So that was cool that, you know, got a little time to recharge your batteries. Origins is a bit more role-playing games now than maybe 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was 85% board games. Now, sadly, there are friends I have in the industry who do not exhibit at Gen Con. Some of them have tried to go, like Mark H. Walker from Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing has tried to get into Gen Con, and they've told him, yeah, your games just aren't, they're just not our thing. Because the vast majority of the games that his companies sell are war games. It's like, you know, GMT might have somebody there selling GMT games, but GMT's not at Gen Con. I got to be honest, I don't think they went to Origins either. There's usually a company there that will have like war game releases. So they'll have like some Compass games, some Decision games, some GMT stuff. Anyway, but Mr. G has come to chat and talked about it. I'm not sure who Mr. G is. If anybody's popped on in that I haven't said hello to, I apologize. But I liked Origins. Origins is fine. Like I said, it's mainly board games, and it's in a weird spot. So it's in Columbus, Ohio, which, I mean, I'm not saying Columbus, Ohio is weird. It's just, it falls into this, okay, so do you fly to Origins? Because if you fly to Origins, you're not really bringing back review copies of stuff. Do you drive to Origins? Because the drive to Origins is like 8.5 hours. So I flew once, and the other times I drove, or Elliot and I drove together. But as far as costs, Origins, now I haven't gone to Origins in a few years, but Origins is a little cheaper. Now, I'm not talking just badges. I'm talking about like hotels and things like that. W. Fork says you could always visit New York for New York Comic Con. We used to get passes for NYCC all the time, but we didn't go. So after about 3 years in a row of getting passes to New York Comic Con, they stopped approving my application. Because I would have gone. It was, usually my brother would be like, and he'd be like, yeah, get the passes. Get the passes. And then when it'd be time to go, it'd be like, Funny enough, he's gone a few times, but just for a day, because our friend David lives in New York. Well, lives outside New York City. Charnel says, can't even Amtrak to Columbus? No, but you can Greyhound to Columbus. You could Amtrak to Cleveland. So, if you want to go to Cleveland, I know that for a fact because I had taken Amtrak back when I was delivering vehicles around the country. So if I were dropping off, say, in New York or Boston, rather than flying back, I would just take the train. Sean Down says, ugh, Greyhound to Columbus is a no. Greyhound to almost anywhere that you have to spend more than 2 hours on the bus is kind of a no. Although there were a couple of times I had to take Greyhound for 300 miles or something. Wasn't terrible, but yeah. What can I tell you? But yeah, I liked Origins. Origins was fine. They did away with their auction. Now, I don't know if I think they brought an auction back because I think the same folks who do the Gen Con auction now run an auction at Origins. And if that were the case, that would change maybe a bit of my, because the thing is, Origins passes like nothing. I could probably get 3 press passes, maybe even 4 press passes to Origins. But yeah, if they actually had an auction and that the auction was well attended, then I would actually consider covering Origins again, because the auction always offsets the cost of the trip, at least the Gen Con, knock on wood. So anyway, back to the original thing, and then I will wrap up. So I have 40 items that are going into the Gen Con auction, and I didn't do more because Elliot's riding with me, and Elliot was going to be bringing stuff for the auction himself. Because I had said, hey, dude, come on. You got stuff collecting dust. Put it in the auction, get a few bucks, even if it's not a whole ton. So he was going to bring some like big box Flying Frog Productions stuff. And the boxes are like this. So I was like, okay, so I got to make sure that I save room for him. So the cutoff date to put stuff into the auction was the 19th. And then I guess they decided, well, it's kind of silly. Why did we make it the 19th? We should have made it the 20th, give you the whole weekend or whatever. And I had my stuff in. Weirdly enough, I still have like 7 items that haven't been approved yet, but they're supposed to do it by the 26th. I'm like, you better approve that stuff. It's not like crap. Anyway, so I thought, okay, I need to save room for Elliot. Then I talked to Elliot and I said, so how many items are you bringing with for the auction? He said, well, I got good news. I said, what's that? He said, I'm not bringing anything to the auction. And I said, how is that good news for me? Like, I said, well, how come? And he goes, I'm lazy. I was like, yeah, why did I even ask? I'm like, I know that was the answer. So I'm like, crap. I could have put like at least 10 more items in for the auction. W Ford says, I wonder what episode has the longest runtime on the Gaming Gang Dispatch. I think there's one that's like 2.5 hours. I am going to wrap this up. Chris Langer asks, what's the local gaming convention in Chicago? Is there even one? In the city of Chicago, I'm not aware of one. We do have Polar Vortex. I will be at that as a special guest. They will be sponsoring the dispatch when we get closer. That's in February. It's pretty small. They had maybe... Oh, they had maybe 500 people. I mean, they had a little exhibitor area, but really wasn't anything, you know, a lot of it was kind of stuff where you're like, well, stuff that you would maybe see if you went to a lower end comic book convention. Before it says, wasn't Wizard World Comic Con in Chicago? It was. And then they went belly up. But now they're replaced with another convention. We used to get passes to Wizard World all the time. We used to get passes to C2E2. And then, well, for reasons outside my control, we never provided any coverage. So how far is that from Naperville? As Sean O'Donnell has pointed out, minutes. In fact, I want to say the suburb, it's in a hotel in Lisle, Illinois. I think Lisle's right next to Naperville. I think. The showdown says maybe seconds if you drive fast. W4 says, more questions for Jeff. Hey, this is an AMA, man. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. We'll wrap up because I will not have a show until after Gen Con. So you are looking at what, August 5th or 6th? So after tomorrow, you'll have to wait around. So yes. So anyways, so there was the whole, crap. I could have brought more stuff to the auction. But of course, now it's cut off, so you can't add anything else. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I'll probably donate some more. I have already donated some stuff, quite a few games actually, to Polar Vortex for this coming year. And they have an auction, but it's a silent auction. You just write down your bid. And then they also have a like try and take. So there's all these different games. Play them. If you like it and you want to take that game, if you want to win that game, you write your name down. And then they do their best to make sure that every single person who's played and wrote their name down on something gets a game. So nobody gets a second game until it goes all the way around. So that was fairly popular. So yeah, I donated quite a bit of stuff. But funny enough, I mean, there's, you know, I have stuff that's of value. It's not like, you know, oh, well, I mean, I got little games that are like, I just give away to people all the time. But I mean, I've got other stuff that's of value. I don't want to just, you know, give it away for $5 when it's selling on eBay for $35, $40. But then again, I don't want to have to go through the hassle of eBay because I have not had a lot of success on eBay. I mean, okay, I take that back. It's been a while since I sold anything. I tend to always get scammers on eBay and I end up getting ripped off. So, all right. Madman says vacation for them first week of August. So they'll be out the week after Gen Con. Kevin R. Smith says, we might have some interview videos to look at. That is my game plan. My game plan is to get the interviews. Thursday, I probably won't have any because I don't have a cameraman until maybe 5 o'clock Eastern. So I might have one on Thursday. I shared yesterday's show who I've got set up. I did confirm my time with Cobalt Press. So that is Friday. So what I'm going to aim to do is try to get those interviews up pretty quick. So I'm going to have all my graphics and that done ahead of time. So then I notice if I don't shoot B-roll, I can get those out really fast. Chardell says, you got Roll for Combat for Thursday. Maybe. I will pop by because Thursday early, I'm on my own. Elliot's got to work. Elliot's going to be working from the hotel. Maybe he gets off noon or 1 o'clock. Probably not. So he normally has to work until 4 o'clock Eastern. So Chris Leonard says, just have fun at the convention. Hope you get to play games. We usually play some stuff. Elliot and I will normally hang out in the lobby of the hotel if they've got tables and that. I'm going to take a guess where we're staying. It'll be pretty difficult to get a table. We'll find out. All right. Anyway, the Madman says they're still working on a list of things to sell, considering selling it to Noble Knight. You know what? I've never done that. I should consider that. Because at least I know, well, even if, I sold it in an auction or Gen Con or donated or whatever, I would prefer to get stuff into people's hands who are going to play it. So, all right. That is it for this time out. On tomorrow's show, Chris Lundgren might like this. We're going to dive on in. This is a big, heavy box. And we are going to take a first look at the deluxe edition of Fields of Fire from GMT Games. Yes, this is a war game. It is a relatively complex war game, but it is solitaire. So we are going to dive on it. Like I said, this is a big old heavy box. So that's what we're going to take a peek at on tomorrow's show. And of course, I'll have the latest tabletop gaming news for you as well. So a super-sized episode tonight. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you. Because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company while I'm doing the news or unboxing a game, paging through a role-playing game book, what have you. But of course, I know a lot of folks don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you kindly for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,300 videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Really, really do appreciate it. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you like the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. Come on, yo. It's not, what the hell? Why did it just do that? There we go. Like, hey, what's going on there? Anyway, if you do subscribe, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of I was good. Yeah, we'll stick with it. Age of Vikings from Chaosium Inc. Yes. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.